Scratch everything you know about color changes and torn card effects. This is a visual, single-card color change that seems impossible even for magicians. From the mind of Victor Sands, we bring you a fresh eye-catcher that looks utterly impossible. This is contrast. Imagine leaving an unexplainable souvenir in your spectator's hands to take away with. The spectator signs the card and even tears a piece off right before the magical moment.
You know there's only one corner for one card, right? Check this out.
The rest of the card visually changes into a contrasting color. You immediately hand everything out to your spectators, leaving them in disbelief of what they just saw.
And the weird thing is put that back, see if it's still matched though. And your signature, and show to the camera, tell them what happened.
You can even change the torn piece that's inside the spectator's hand.
Oh my god!
Put that back on, see if it's still matched with your signature.
Oh my god!
Check out your signature. Is that your signature there?
This is the color change for this day and age.
Touch any card you like, just touch one. Oh, this one here.
Yeah.
Awesome. Take the card out, take the card away. Fold the card exactly in half. Fold the card exactly in half.
It will be exactly happening.
Oh, you're gonna be a really good wife in the future. Fold it the other way too. Fold it the other way too. Let me just show you. Just fold this like that.
Okay?
Eh?
He saw it?
Yeah, it's okay. Do you guys have a Sharpie or something like that?
No.
Oh, shit, where's my card? You can do this. You can do this. Sign your name. Really, really big. Really, really big. All the way across the face of the card. Oh, that was really nice name though. Okay. Anyways, this is what we're gonna do. Okay. Just stand right over here so you can see the better. So I'm gonna give you a gift, right? So I'm just gonna tear a little corner for you. Is that cool? Is it okay? Can I still see your signature? Yes. Just rip it off. Just rip it off. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Check this out. Can I have this piece back? Thank you. There's only one piece, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Check this out. Right. Check this out. Are you ready? Shh. And the weird thing is put that back. See if it's still matched though. And your signature, and show to the camera. Tell them what happened. Tell them what happened.
I feel played.
And check out your signature. Is that your signature there?
It's small, it's compact, it's folded right now. However, if I were to unfold this, so like that, and then like that, as you can see, looks like 3/4 of a card. Right now it looks like a blue card, but with a bit of a flick, it looks like the card changes red. First, we have this card. So this is the card that the spectator is going to choose. We're going to be forcing that, and that's on top. We have the gimmick on the bottom, on top of a duplicate card, 5 diamonds, that's red back. And then we have some face-up cards to aid in doing the switch. So when you're ready to perform the effect, you just force the 5 diamonds on top, which is right over here. Get the spectator to fold it into quarters. Fold it in half first. Try and get it a clean fold. And the spectator is going to be folding this. You can even help them if they're having a bit of trouble. But once they've folded this in half and half again, you ask them if they have a Sharpie, use some sort of misdirection in your presentation, and you do a switch like that. So now, of course, we'll be going over the details later, but we're working with the gimmick now. The gimmick on top of the duplicate card. This is when they sign the card, so this would be a signed card at this point. The deck is out of sight, out of mind, so no one cares about that anymore. And then this is when you tear that piece off. So just very quickly, let's say down up here, like that. So they keep this, you're not revealing this, but they're holding it so it seems like they're just holding the rest of that card that's blue. So we've planted the idea that we're working with a blue card because we're using a blue deck. They can see that this card is still blue even when you were, right before you were tearing the card, and now you can show them again that it's a blue card. So at this point you're ready to do the change, bam! So at this point you can turn the card over and show that it's still their signed card, Of course, they're in disbelief until you bring the attention all the way to their hand. That piece that they were holding, they can turn it around and take a look that the piece turned from blue to red to match the card that changed. And then you'll of course be, ditching the gimmick, which we'll be going over later on in the main handling, and then hand this out. They can make sure that the piece fits with the rest of the card, and you have this impossible moment that they just need to digest because of how earth-shattering, I suppose it is for them. Super visual, super fun to perform, so let's get into the details on the main handling. So guys, let's get into the main handling in which the piece in the spectator's hand changes to the color that matches the rest of the card. So you'll first need a red card, 4 diamonds in this case, and of course your gimmick. Now we'll also be needing some double stick tape, so we have Scotch double stick tape here. But first you want to unfold the gimmick like that, so that the single piece is pointing downward when you're holding and doing the change, like that. Now where you're going to be placing the tape is right behind this single flap over here. So you'll be placing it on the red portion over here. So once it's over here like that and exposed, you can peel a small piece of double stick tape like that and just place it on top like that. And of course you don't want it to be too sticky, so you can just run your finger across it and just, unstick that double stickiness so the adhesive is not as strong. Of course you can place the double stick tape away at this point, and you have some double stick tape behind that piece. So once your double stick tape is on, right here, you place that aside. And the next thing that you'll need is that red card that you have. And you'll need a duplicate of that in blue, but we'll talk about that later. Right now, you take the red card, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna fold it. You're gonna fold it in half, like that. And then just gonna unfold it and fold it in half again the other way. That way, it's in 4, like that. So it's in quarters, okay? And just fold that a little bit. And you have this ready to go. You take that gimmick with a piece of tape on it, and you just place it right on top like that. And whether you're using double stick tape or magician wax, it'll stay in place. There you go, nice and secure. Now you need the rest of the deck that matches the unfolded gimmick. You'll be placing this gimmick aside for now. You have this entire deck, and of course, like I was saying before, you need a duplicate of that 4 of diamonds or the card of your choice. That's red. In this case, this blue card is going to actually be on top. In terms of the orientation of the deck, the bottom few cards you can turn over. I like to just turn over 5, so I have some room for play, and turn over 5 face up and leave that on the bottom. So the orientation right now is your force card, which is the 4 of diamonds, the duplicate card in blue, rest of the deck, and 5 face-up cards. Now you can always just have 1 face-up card or a few, but I like to have 5. You place the gimmick on the very bottom, like that, and I like to have the red corner over here, or the red section over here facing towards me. And there you go. So you have the gimmick on the bottom, and that's facing in this orientation. So now your deck is ready, and you're ready to perform the effect. So this sits in your card box, always ready to perform contrast, and you're just ready to blow some people's mind. Now let's say you found your victim right over there. You approach them, you take this deck of cards out of your card box, and you're ready to go. First thing you need to do is force this card, this top card that's sitting over here, the 4 of diamonds in this case. How do you do that? Well, I'm going to teach you a very basic one. Now when you're first introducing yourself or beginning your presentation, what you're going to do is set up for a riffle force. Now if you don't know what that is, we have a prerequisite section where it teaches you that, but I'm going to briefly walk through in terms of how to do it. All you're doing is swing cutting about 1/3 of the deck, like that, so that you have a pinky break over here. And you're going to riffle the edge of the deck like that, and have them say stop anytime to give them the illusion of free choice. However, you don't want to riffle enough so that they see the face-up cards. You just want to riffle and time them to say stop around the top portion, around here. So let's say they would say stop. Stop! Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to pick up everything from the pinky break, and you're just going to cut the deck, or cut the rest of the packet on top like that. So it seems like they stopped at this card, which is, of course, we all know that it's the 4 of diamonds. So let's do that one more time. You do a cut, and when they're ready, you ask them to say stop anytime, right there, and you cut it to the top. So it seems like that's the card they stopped at, the 4 of diamonds. So you've successfully forced the 4 of diamonds on them. Once they pick the 4 of diamonds, you're going to have them fold the card in half, and then in half again, so that they're in quarters. So let's say they were to fold it in half like that. Doesn't need to be super pretty, but they're folding it once, and then they're folding it again, like that. And if they're really struggling, I guess you can help them out as well, just speed up the process. But once they get to around here, you place this on top of the deck like that, okay? Maybe try to unfold it so that it's relatively flat, so it's not just, popping up from the top of the deck, so they can see the folds. And they were the one folding it. And of course, all this is implanting the idea that everything is blue right now. This 4 of diamonds is blue, the rest of the deck is blue. It's blue card. So once it's on top, you're gonna do the switch. This very devious switch in order to switch for that card that, the gimmick is on right now. How do you do it? You use some sort of justification. In this case, what Jason likes to do is to look for a Sharpie. So he likes to ask, do you guys have a Sharpie? Anyone? And while he's doing that, of course, you already have a Sharpie. And when you're reaching for your Sharpie, you're going to pass the deck over and turn the deck 180. So you swap the card, or swap for the card that's on the bottom of the deck. So let me show you up close how that looks like. So when you're asking for the Sharpie, you're gonna simply pass the deck over to your other hand like that. So you're turning the deck 180. Let me break that down for you. You're using these 3 fingers over here as a pivot point for the deck to flip over 180. You can always use gravity and let go and then pass it over to your other hand, or you can have your thumb help push it off as well. Now, when you're receiving the deck in your right hand, it actually saves you a step if you catch it in a mechanic's grip or in a grip where it exposes the 4 of diamonds over here so that they can sign the card. So when you do that, all you're doing is doing that, allowing it to flip over 180, and then you have your Sharpie. You bring that out from the pocket, okay? And then you have them uncap it and just sign their name right over there. So let me show you that in real time. Does anyone have a Sharpie? Actually, I have one over here. Go ahead and take the Sharpie and just sign your name right across the face of the card. Now, of course, you don't have to have the spectator sign the card. You don't need to have a Sharpie in your pocket. You don't need them to sign the face of the card or anything like that. However, I highly recommend that you do so. I encourage you to do so because it does make your performance much more powerful. And it's something for them to take away with at the end with their signature. So it just makes the experience a little bit more intimate that way. So let's have a quick look in terms of the orientation of the deck. We have the card that they just signed with the gimmick on the back. We have those face down cards that you flipped over before, the rest of the deck being face up. And that card that you swapped, 4 of diamonds, facing down right now. And that's a brief look. Of course, you don't want to be flashing the bottom card, the 4 of diamonds, otherwise you expose that there's 2 of the same cards, which is not good. But all you do at this point is you're going to push off that card, that top one over here, and you're going to pinch the card so that you don't let this flap, freely flap around like that, exposing the gimmick. So you're just going to pinch that card, okay, like that, and you're just going to ditch the rest of this deck because this deck doesn't need to come into play anymore. So that goes away. What you have now is this card. You can always pinch from the flap over here so you can freely show the card. And what you're going to do is you're going to tear this quarter of the card over here. So if I turn this around, this is the piece that you're going to be tearing off. So what you're going to do is you can re-grip so that you're about chest level. And what you do is you're just going to tear this quarter of the piece. And you're going to be handing that to the spectator. So once you get to this part, you can always have the spectator tear off that piece as long as you're holding on to the flap over here. So let's say they tore it. And then they keep this in their hand. However, when you're tearing this, it is a little bit bold to have them tear it because it's a red piece right now. But if you're good with audience management, you can always have that. But I like to just tear it off and then hand it to them while it's face up like that, so they can't see the back of the card yet. As for their hand, put it in their hand so that when they receive the corner or the piece, they're holding it face up, and then just have them squeeze onto the card and say, make sure, or hold on to the piece and make sure that it doesn't fly away or anything like that. Make sure that no one is able to get to it. So once this is in their hand, in this case, I'm just going to put it in my pocket, you're left with this. You have 3/4 of the card, and you're ready to do the change. So you're gripping it like so, in this fashion, and you're going to hold it down over here. There's one way to do the change. I'm going to actually go over a few ways to execute the change. However, this is one way. You're going to hold it from the bottom piece like that in your right hand. So your index finger is on the very bottom, your middle finger is over here on the side of that bottom piece, and your thumb is going to be along the side of the card over here. Now a quick tip I want to go over is that before you do the change and they're looking at you, if you're carrying on the rest of your presentation, asking them to look, you can bend inward a little bit just to help you with the change. And bending inward will help, and you'll find that later when you are executing the change. However, at this point, you can always let go. You have 3/4 of the card, blue, and you're ready to execute the change. Now, how to do so is you're going to actually kind of flick your wrist a little bit away from yourself, so to your right. So to you, it looks left. So that's the audience, and you're going to flick like so, and you're going to let gravity do a lot of the work. So when you flick this way, there's force having this flap to want to fold over to this section over here. So if I were to just do that, as you can see, it folds over once to the right or to my right, and then gravity will allow it to flip down to cover the rest of the card like so. And this all happens in a bit of a flick of the wrist. So let me show you that in one motion. All it takes is a small wrist flick, like that. And now the gimmick has folded once, twice, into this position over here. So it looks like the entire 3 section of the card has changed. Of course, from a distance, they won't be able to see this gimmick over here. So let me break that down a little bit more for you. Let's actually unfold the gimmick so that it looks blue. Now, getting into the position to execute the change, you actually want to hold it as close to the fingertips as possible. That way, when it folds over and you do the change, it clears your fingers, or it clears your fingers, so that you don't create this gap. Now, let's say I was to hold too deep, and I were to do the change like that. You create this gap, and it doesn't look good. It's not flush with the card, and you risk exposing that piece over there. So try and hold it as close to the fingertip as possible when doing the change. Now, when you're first doing this change, I know it's going to be a little bit hard because it is a bit of a knacky move. It's 2 motions, to the right and then down. Don't feel discouraged. As long as you practice this over and over, get the feel of the change, you'll eventually get it. It'll really pay off. Do this in front of a mirror and it's gonna look amazing. So just be sure to practice and keep getting at it until you can do it consistently. So once you get the move down, you're in this position and you're gonna be ready to do the cleanup. So you're starting from this grip and all you're doing is bringing it up to chest level while flipping it over. All you're doing is rotating your wrist and having the thumb on the back of the card like that. Now, if this is a little bit hard for you, you can always use your other hand to help you out. Just use your other hand, pick it up, and then turn it around like that. Just to show them that it's still their signed card. Super impossible. But at this point, you can have all the attention to their hand. Their hand right now is holding the other missing piece over here, and they still think it's blue, but there's that magical moment where it changes red. You can always use some sort of magical gesture and see, actually, not only did the card over here change, but take a look at your hand. So when they flip it over, you can see it's a red piece, and that's all the time in the world for you to do the cleanup. So right now I'm holding the card with my left hand. I'm just kind of pinching the gimmick a little bit so it feels a little bit more secure, but you're gonna let go of that grip so that your right hand can come over and peel it with your right thumb. So let's take a look at that in exposed angle, like that. So your right hand's gonna come over like that, and it's gonna rest on the inside of your hand like that, over here. So it's resting between these 2 fingers over here, the crotch over here, and I'm just gonna peel this off with my right thumb, just so it clears it, and it's in my hand, palmed, and I can always hold on to this card and hand it out to them immediately. And of course, watch out for your windows. Now bear in mind that when this gimmick is on the card over here and you're stealing it, you don't want to rip it off like this. Can you hear that? Double stick tape. Now, of course, you'll be performing this in an environment where it's not dead quiet, where they can hear that. Otherwise, they can even hear the change. You want to perform this in its most suitable scenario, which is in places even outdoors or at a club, anything that has some background noises to cover it, which isn't very hard to find. But when you are peeling it off, be sure to do so a bit slowly, not too fast, not too quick. Otherwise, you get that sound. Now, if you're using magician's wax, you can always prevent this. By using magician wax, it's not going to have that adhesive sound when it comes off. But I find that double stick tape is a little bit more secure. That's why I like to use it, and that's why Jason likes to use it as well. Both have their advantages, so just find what works best for you. Now let's say you just peel the gimmick off, okay? And all the attention is toward this card. All you're doing is relaxing the hand while you still have a nice grip of the gimmick. Relax, hand this out, and now they have this and the piece in their hand to try and make sure that it's the fitting piece. It's the same piece that you handed to them before the change, and now they can actually try and put it together like a puzzle, make sure that all the rips and tears match the piece that they're holding. So at this point, you can hand the card out for the spectator to keep, and also make sense of the situation, try and match the piece that was in their hand, and make sure that it really is a perfect match. And it is. You can always refer to our live performance where Jason performs it, and just see in terms of the timing of when he is routining this effect. When he hands out the card and has them, make sure that the piece fits. That's when he does this, when he does the ditch, when he does the switch, all that good stuff, all that little nitty-gritty stuff you'll find in the live performance to help you out. So guys, that is the main handling for contrast. Alright, so let's learn how to prep for the impossible souvenir handling. What you'll be making is this. This is what you're going to be left with at the end. As you can see, it's a red card with a blue piece right here attached. So it seems like it's one card. Okay, so let's learn how to make it. These are the things you'll be needing. Rubber cement, a knife, a ruler, cutting mat, a blue card of any choice. It doesn't matter what the blue card is as long as it's blue backed, and a duplicate of a card, but different colors. 4 of diamonds is what I'm using in this case, and as you can see, one is blue, one is red. So these are the cards you'll be needing. So once everything is in front of you, you'll be placing everything aside except for this blue card. Now after you've moved everything aside and you're left with this blue card, we're actually going to be splitting this card. Now splitting cards is a bit of an art form on its own because of how difficult it is to, skillfully get things to look clean. However, I'm going to briefly walk through on how to split cards in order for you to construct your gaff card. So first thing you'll do is with this blue card, you're going to hold a corner, all right, doesn't matter, and what you're going to do is kind of, you're going to hit the corner so that it splits, okay? So you'll just be doing that, except there is a specific way for you to do so. What you'll be doing is actually using your wrist in order to hit the corner like that on a surface, okay? Now hit it relatively hard. Don't use too much of your arm. Just remember to use your wrist. And once you feel like the corner is starting to bend a little bit, what you'll be doing now is working the corner back and forth, okay? So you're just using your finger, so you work it. And eventually, you'll feel that the card starts splitting a little bit. That. You can even work on it a little more, just so it splits a little bit. Like that. And as you can see, it starts opening up a little bit. Now a card has 3 layers. There's the front face, there's the middle piece, and there's also the back piece. And what you'll be leaving yourself with is the back piece, so not the face or the middle layer. So once you start being able to see the 3 layers, I'm actually going to make it a little bit more prominent for you to see on camera. As you can see, there's 3 layers right there. So again, we'll be peeling the back layer off the card. So how you want to do this is you want to start peeling off a little bit, just so you have some to work with. So up to about here, what you're going to do is going to flip the card around like that on a surface, and you're going to actually peel off the 2 layers away from the back layer. All right, so you're going to have your finger over here holding onto the back layer over there, and you're going to start peeling this away a little bit. Okay, and make sure that you're holding it down. Okay, now it is very important how you do pull this away. You don't want to be pulling it upward. You actually want to be peeling it away from the corner. And also when you're peeling this, you want to peel it in almost like a circular fashion. You don't want to just peel it straight towards the other corner. Otherwise, that's not going to give you a very clean split. Now let me just show you. So while you're holding onto it, you start peeling like that. So you're working over here. Okay, so towards this corner now. And you just move closer to the where you are ripping, and you'll even if you notice that it starts splitting over here a little bit, you can actually fix that. You just gotta peel that away like this. Okay. All right. And once you reach around here, you can just pull off, and that's it. So this you do not need anymore because again, we'll be needing this back design over here, okay? So now what you'll be doing is bringing that ruler back, okay? And you're going to actually cut this into 4 pieces. So you'll have 4 pieces to work with. So you have your knife as well. You're gonna bring that, okay? Be careful with this. If you are a younger customer, I highly suggest that you have a parent or guardian help you out with this step. So out here, find halfway point, so down the angel, and then just cut it right in half. Okay? You can place that aside for now. And you'll be cutting it into quarters and actually prepped beforehand. So I already have 4 pieces right over here. 4 pieces of a card already cut like that. And of course, we'll only be needing 2 of these corners. So you actually won't be needing these 2. so you can actually toss these aside, but you'll have 2 chances to create the gimmick if you choose to do so. Okay, so it's the top left and the bottom right of the card. Those are the corners that you'll be keeping. So place this aside just for now, and now we're going to actually be splitting the red card. So the red card is the one that you'll be splitting, and you'll be splitting one corner of the card. Okay, so that would be, again, as I said before, the top left and the bottom right. So in this case, I'll be starting over here, and you'll be splitting that corner, okay? It's very important which corner you are splitting. So again, you'll be hitting the corner of the card using your wrist, a fair amount of force, and then you'll start seeing that it's bending. Start working the corner again. Feel that it's splitting, and you feel that you can get that back design piece right there, that layer, that back layer. And you start peeling a little bit. You don't want to peel all the way because again, we're just going to be cutting the corner. Now to make your life much easier, what you'll be doing at this point is that you know that you didn't mess up your split and you know it's going to split well. You're actually going to score the card. You're going to score this quarter of the card. And how you score a card is you'll be taking your ruler, and just like when you were cutting the card, you are doing a cut, however, it's a very light cut. What you're trying to do is penetrate through the top layer. So not through the entire card, just the top layer. So you can just lightly, with a light pressure, all you're doing is pressing down very lightly, down the card all the way to the middle, just like that, okay? You can do it one more time just to be safe. Very lightly, I'm barely even putting any pressure onto the knife. So once you score like that, you score over here, so that you're left with this, okay? So turn the card around like so, put the ruler over here, find the halfway mark over here, take my knife and lightly press down as I score to the middle, like that, okay? Now you place your ruler and your knife aside, and it's very hard to see on camera, but there's a light little score over here, so that's easier for you to peel off this back design over here, okay? So just like before, you turn the card around, and you're just going to peel this way, okay? Until you start feeling toward the, you're getting closer to there. And that's the point where you can actually use that score so that you can peel off the rest of that, just like that. Just peel it. And you can see this is starting to come off, but honestly, there's a blue piece that's going to be on top of this, so you don't even need to be super clean with this, this split, okay? So now it's about to meet that second score that we made over here, and you can actually peel it off from the center or the side, doesn't really matter. And there you go, now you have straight edges, just like that, because you scored the card earlier. So now what you do is you're going to take your rubber cement, okay, and you're going to take one of the corners from the blue card that you split and cut before, and as you can see, it matches up very nicely. And we're going to be using rubber cement to have it attached on there, okay? So take some rubber cement. Of course, you don't want to use too much. You don't want excessive rubber cement, otherwise it'll be a little bit messy and also hard to dry. So we're applying a little bit over here, okay, on the card on the side that you split. Again, don't need too much. And you're going to wait for this to dry. Place it aside for now. And you're going to do the exact same thing with this piece as well, this blue piece. And once you put enough rubber cement, again, very thin layer, you're going to wait for it to dry. So once the card is dried and the piece is dried, all you got to do is line up the corners and the edges so that it looks like it's part of the same card. So start from the corner, like that, okay? And then line up the edge, like so. And as you can see, this is the final result. Ta-da! 4 of diamonds, gaffed with a blue quarter of the card over here. Okay? Now at this point, what you'll be doing is you'll be folding up the card into quarters. Okay? And that's how you prep. First step to prepping the deck. Like that. Okay? 1 fold. And of course, a second fold. Okay, bend it back a little bit. There you go. Okay, as you can see, this is what you are left with. And of course, you have that second 4 of diamonds that's blue, and that's your duplicate card that you'll be forcing to the spectator. Okay? And we'll be going over on how that comes into play later. So once the gaff card is in the deck and prepped, just the same way as the main handling, so you have the duplicate card that's blue on the very top of the deck. Rest of the deck, you have some cards facing up, and you also have the gimmick on top of that gaff card you created. So if I just peel this gimmick off, all right, as you can see, that was the card that we created. All I did was slap the contrast gimmick on top, left with this, facing down, so that when you do the switch, let's say this was folded, and then you do that, that's the card that they'll be signing. So that is the orientation of the deck. So one more time, the orientation of the deck is your duplicate 4 of diamonds on top, or whatever card that you use to gaff up, and then you have the rest of the deck, some face-up cards, and the contrast gimmick on top of that gaff card you created. All right? So once your deck is set up, you just place it in a card box or in your pocket, and you're ready to perform the impossible souvenir handling. All right, so now that your deck is set up, you are always ready to kill. It's just sitting in your card box, ready to whip it out and just find your audience and amaze them. So let's say that you just found your victims, and you have your deck in your hand right now, or you just took it out of your card box. You're ready to amaze. The only difference in this handling is, well, you just gotta watch for that gaff card that you prepared earlier. And the only difference in the setup, as I mentioned before, is that you just have a different gaff card. So let's run through the entire routine. So once you're introducing yourself or beginning your presentation on the offbeat, all you're doing is swing cutting about a third of the deck, getting ready for a riffle force by having that pinky break, ask them to say stop anytime. Stop, are you sure? Well, it doesn't quite matter as long as you don't go past and reveal the face cards. But let's say they say stop right here, cut the cards all the way to the top, and it feels like they can stop anywhere, but really they're stopping at the 6 of spades. So they have the 6 of spades, and at this point, just like the main handling, you're gonna have them fold up the card in quarters. So we have one fold, and we have another fold, just like that. So once the card is folded up, all you do is place it back on the deck, ask for the Sharpie, if they have a Sharpie, and you just pat yourself down, transfer the deck over to your other hand, as taught in the main handling, go for the Sharpie that's prepared in your left hand, and then you just ask them to, uncap it and sign the card. So in this case, I'm right-handed, so I'll just pass the deck over here and sign my name or my initials, like that. Take the Sharpie back, and it's away. So you have this card to work with. Of course, we know that this is the swapped out card with the gimmick ready behind it. Now, beautiful thing about this is that once you push it off, as long as you pinch onto this flap over here, you can just freely show the card or flash the card very subtly, just to, further implant the idea that it's blue. Now, of course, you're not spreading the cards like that, but the deck goes away. No one cares about the deck anymore. That goes in your pocket or just on the surface, on a table, and you're working with this. Now, just like the main handling, all you're doing is flipping it around like so that you're tearing a piece away from the card. So I like to start from the top like so, and you just tear it as you would the card. Tear the other side like that, and right when it gets to around the corner, you can ask them to go ahead and take that piece off, like that. Now the beautiful thing about this is that you don't have to be as careful with this piece because there's no red, it's not red, so you don't need to hide anything. You can actually show the back and ask for their hand to show that it's blue, put it in their hand, and they can hold it however they will, because this is a piece that's not going to change. So once it's in their hand, let's say it's in the spectator's hand right now, you have this to work with. Now you get into the position to do the change. So from here, you just get into the position for the change, holding the bottom piece like that. Make sure that your fingertips are allowing the card to clear. So from here, you do the change as you would. A slight jerk, just like that. And then you're ready to turn this card over, reveal that it's still that signed card, and then you ask for that piece. Say, take a look at that piece that's in your hand, and then you do the cleanup as taught in the main handling and hand this card over. That way, they take the card, you can ditch this in your pocket, and they have the piece in their hand, which I have in my pocket right here, and they can try and make sense of this mystery. As they can see, it's a fitting piece, but impossibly, how is a piece still blue while the rest of the card is red? And this is such a beautiful image because it's an impossible souvenir that they can leave with and just, share with their friends and show to people, and it just doesn't make sense how this is possible. So very beautiful. So now they're left with this in their hand, something completely impossible, something for them to take away with and share with their friends and families and just share that magical experience you just gave them. Now, even though this does require some preparation, it's definitely worth it if you do want to leave an impossible souvenir for your spectator, because there are several advantages as well, as mentioned while I was teaching you the handling. One being that you can actually show this corner before you put it in the spectator's hand. You don't need to worry about flashing the red. Another thing is that you can actually show the entire card, just flash it a little bit to further implant the idea that the entire card and the entire deck is blue. So guys, that's another idea for contrast and makes the effect seem even more impossible. Now for both handlings of contrast, we went over one way to execute the visual change. However, in this section, I'd like to share with you a few more ideas, a few more changes for you to choose from. Some being more suitable for different situations or just finding the right one for your style. Now let's get into the first idea. Now the first idea is in the exact same grip as taught earlier. However, you know that the first change happens around waist level. But let's say that you have a larger crowd, just a couple more people, and you want to broaden your angles. Well, you can do that up here. And let me teach you in terms of how to do that. So instead of going down here, you'll be turning your body like so, and make sure that the card is lined up like that. Now when you're ready to do the change, it looks like this. So just a small wrist flick, and then the card changes. Now let me break that down for you. Let's reset the gimmick, like that. So you're in the position to do the change. Now, as you can see, it's the exact same grip as taught earlier. However, you're just turning it around almost 180, not really. It's at a bit of an angle. Now, in terms of where you're flicking your wrist, the motion of the card is going to be going up this way and then back down. So up to clear that first flap, and then back down to clear that second one. Now, of course, since I'm not doing it in one motion, it looks like I'm doing too big of a motion. However, you'll actually have to be practicing this a few times so that you get the groove. I know it's going to be a little bit difficult and knacky at first, but with enough practice, you'll be able to get it. So one motion, just like that. A small flick, diagonal, and then back down. So that's one idea for you to take away with. Both changes that you know now happen around waist level, but let's say that you have a larger crowd. You want to cover more of your angles, and you want to step back, and you want to do something like this. And it changes. Now Jason, our in-house artist, prefers to do it this way because it covers more people. And if you refer to our live performance section, you can tell that he does this type of change because it covers more people. And you can always also refer to the live performance in terms of the timing when you are doing your handling or when you are performing contrast. But let's break this down. Now, the beautiful thing about this is that you end at your fingertips. So it seems like there's no way for you to manipulate the cards, or the card, that is. So let's say you get in position from here. All you're doing is going up this way, and then as you can see, even one is enough. And that's the beautiful thing about this. So in terms of the motion though, you do want it to clear once, going up, and then coming back down is when this flap likes to go back down. Now let me do that at once so that it looks a little bit better. So again, happens in your fingertips. Now you're holding this card with your other hand over here so it doesn't flip open like that. Otherwise that would reveal that you have two cards. So you want to do this until you're ready to do the change. And when you're ready, you just let go and then do the wrist flick. Up and then back down. Okay? Now with all our changes, of course, you want to practice enough so that it seems like it's effortless. Like that. And then you can immediately turn over the card like so. Bring the attention to their hand so that they can make sure that the piece is the fitting piece, whether it's blue or red, doesn't matter. You do the cleanup as you did as taught in the main handling. So now you hand the card over and you're clean. So now that you learned one way to execute the change either at chest level or eye level, let's get into the final change that also happens in the fingertips. Looks super clean. Something like this. In order for it to look like this, in a small wrist flick motion, and end at your fingertips, well, it's not that difficult once you get the first few changes. You know that the idea is to try and clear the first flap and then the second in terms of where the direction of where you're flicking your wrist. So in terms of the motion, you're flicking up over here to this direction, like that, so it clears. And then coming back down, it clears the second one. Now, let's go into the grip. In terms of how you're holding the card, when you're ready to do the change, let's say you just, tore off that piece and you hand it to the spectator. You want to turn the card so it's facing them. Try and get your index finger in between the signed card and the gimmick. Now you can do that. You can always hold it with your other hand and do that. or you can just do it with one hand once you have enough experience. And you have these 3 fingers, your middle, ring, and pinky holding along the edge of the card over here just so it doesn't flip open. And you also want to maintain a grip and pinch the gimmick with your middle finger and your index finger on the other side over here. So let me show you from this angle right over here. As you can see, the flesh of my index finger is between the sign card and the gimmick, and my thumb, of course, is behind it holding it in place. So all this is pinching the card, so I can actually do that, but these other fingers here are for support so that doesn't flip open. Now when you're ready to do the change, you know the motion is diagonally up over there and then back down. Now in terms of your fingers, of course, you're going to be letting go of these few fingers. So when you let go, you do that, so it flips up. Can't do it in slow-mo, unfortunately, but when it goes down like that, you end at your fingertips. So you're just pinching the card with your index finger and your thumb, like that. Very clean display to happen at chest level and eye level. Now let's quickly talk about your angles for this change. Now the angles are great because it covers a lot of people, happens at the chest level, no one's gonna miss this change. However, the only thing you need to be aware of and just be careful of is this gap that you create when you're pinching the card. So you create this small gap with the flesh of your index finger, as mentioned before, so that you separate the gimmick from the signed card. So the only thing you need to watch out for is not tilting it forward like that to reveal that gap. All you gotta do is tilt back very slightly, and then you can execute the change and not worry about a thing. Now the gimmick is right in your hand, so be sure to play around with it. Do it in front of a mirror and see what looks the most visual. Maybe you'll even find your own handling or your own way to execute the change. So guys, just be creative and have lots of fun.